Stephen Hawking has been quoted as saying that it is perfectly rational to assume intelligent life exists somewhere in the universe.
Now, you've done out there on the spacewalk. First of all, did you ever think, okay, maybe there's other life out here? And then also, on a slightly more serious note, when you do look out into the universe, do you have this feeling that there's life out there?
It's the alien thing cracks me, because in America, everybody thinks they're in Roswell, New Mexico. That's
right.
It's
what is it, Area 51?
Area 51 is in, that's in a different place. That's in Las Vegas, or near Las Vegas. Or, I don't know where it is. I don't even know if there is one or not, but there's one in Las Vegas and there's one in New Mexico. But I always laugh that if I was an alien and I had to travel, hundreds of light years and then billions of miles, and I finally made it to Earth, and it is a beautiful planet. There's blue, there's turquoise of the Bahamas. London looks like a fun place to come. There's lots of places I would go, but the middle of New Mexico would not be the place I would go if
Are we alone? It's a question that many hope to have answered, and some believe they already have the answer to. Some scientists maintain that we will find alien life in the next 30 years.
If we do find aliens, does that mean it's end of all religions as we know it? What are its implications? Let us step back and analyze in light of what we know today. Let's start with how it all started as we understand.
Earth came into being 13.7 billion years ago. About 400,000 years later, it had cooled enough to form the first atoms. The event created a sudden pulse of light that astronomers now measure as the cosmic microwave background.
But then, the universe went dark. For millions of years.
Eventually, hydrogen gas cooled enough to collapse and form the first stars. These stars not only re-illuminated the universe, they became the seeds of all future cosmic structure.
The James Webb Space Telescope may be able to see clusters of these first stars. It may even catch a few of them dying in supernova explosions.
Either the first stars or their progeny gathered into the first galaxies. These were small, gas-rich dwarfs, nothing as grand as the big galaxies we see today, but they were the building blocks of modern galaxies.
As the dwarf galaxies form, collide, and merge into bigger galaxies, the cosmic web begins to take shape.
Many old civilizations in their scriptures talk about the beginning of everything. Let us look at one very special one.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing?
So, is Quran really talking about the beginning of our universe?
Science thinks so. The most accepted model of the origin of the universe is the Big Bang. Let me ask you, what do you think was before Big Bang?
It does not matter. All that matters is we are here.
Okay, so the question is, why are we here?
Universe put us here.
What is this universe?
It is the combination of physical laws that govern everything. From gravitational force to quantum physics control everything in our universe.
What is the origin of these physical laws?
The universe or Mother Nature.
Wait a minute. So, what I am hearing is that the universe or Mother Nature controls and dictates all the physical laws. But, how did the universe achieve that ability?
The ability was a byproduct of the way Big Bang panned out. Next Big Bang may dictate a whole different sets of physical laws.
So, Are you saying that the current combination of physical laws are byproducts of a random occurrence?
Yes.
Interestingly, Quran talks about a strange non-human beings called jinns. They seem to have a lot of similarity with modern-day concept of aliens. For example, they can see us, but we don't see them. They're able to travel to the edge of the universe. They are shape-shifters, and many other things they do are uncannily similar to what we are contemplating an alien would be.
Okay, where does the universe go from here? That is, what happens next?
That depends which model of the universe you accept to be more feasible. The Big Crunch model, or the forever expanding universe model.
Wait, I have heard of the Big Crunch in the ancient Quranic texts. Let's hear it.
Be grieved by the greatest terror, and the angels will meet them saying, "This is your day which you have been promised."
يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين.
The day when we will fold the heaven like the folding of a written sheet for the records. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it.
I think the forever expanding universe model is becoming more accepted model these days. So, maybe the Quran is not correct?
Last I heard, the NASA is looking for a whole new model. The assumed mathematics is not showing consistent results.
Where did you get that information?
From NASA, of course.
Astronomer Edwin Hubble and others, scientists have known since 1929 that our universe is expanding. Its current rate of expansion is called Hubble's constant, or H0. There are two leading ways to measure H0, and for 15 years, they more or less agreed with one another. Not anymore, and that's a big deal. Here's why. In the standard model of cosmology, H0 is a crucial ingredient, right up there with the speed of light. H0 factors into everything we know about the universe, how old it is, how big it is, what it's made of. If H0 is tweaked, we get a different age of the universe, different relative amounts of matter, dark energy, and so on. Unlike the speed of light, however, scientists can't measure H0 in the laboratory. Instead, H0 has to be inferred from observations of the universe. One way scientists have measured H0 is to use observations of type 1a supernovae combined with their host galaxy's redshifts. Each 1a supernova releases roughly the same amount of light when it explodes. Measuring the amount of light we receive from a 1a supernova tells us its distance. Measuring an object's redshift, or its increase in wavelength, tells us how fast that object is moving away from Earth. Researchers use many 1A supernovae as distance markers, measuring objects in our local universe, then moving out to get a measurement of the universe's rate of expansion. The other H0 measurement technique looks at the cosmic microwave background, or CMB, the afterglow from the Big Bang itself. The early universe was hot and dense. Light couldn't travel freely through space. As the universe cooled, the photons were released. This radiation left an imprint, providing insights into the composition of the universe at that time. The CMB can be used to make measurements from the early universe, such as the density of dark matter and dark energy. Those measurements can be combined with the model of the evolution of the universe, allowing researchers to infer the rate of expansion of the universe, or Hubble's constant. As these two camps have improved their abilities to measure H0, it has become clear that they disagree. A recent study using the first method yielded an 8% greater expansion rate than the second method's result. Now scientists are asking, are we missing something? Of H9. Maybe the standard model of cosmology, which predicts agreement, is wrong. That would send researchers on an exciting search for a new model of the cosmos. Do we really know what makes up all of the radiation in the Big Bang, wonders Friedman? Is there a new kind of particle we aren't accounting for? Or are dark energies or dark matter's properties changing over time?
Okay. So, that only means that we are still searching for the correct model. That does not mean God exists. There is no proof. I cannot see him, hear him, or touch him, or feel him. How can I believe in something like that?
Fine. I understand. Did you know that the ancient scripts of the Quran appears to talk about the Big Bang being a repetitive process?
Really? The Big Crunch talks about repetition of the Big Bang. Let me hear what the Quran says.
The day when we will fold the heaven like the folding of a written sheet for the records. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it.
What other things do the Quran says about the universe?
Many things. Let's start with the sun. Quran talks about sun orbiting around the Milky Way. In fact, not proven yet, but the Quran talks about the sun's orbit coming to an end at some point in the future. Kind of like sun eventually being sucked into the black hole that is in the middle of our Milky Way. It also alludes to the Earth and Sun etc. swimming in space. We recently found out about gravitational waves. Surely, gravitational waves are like the waves in water, expanding outward from its source. Similarly, our Sun and Earth are swimming in the gravitational waves of our Milky Way. The black hole in the center creates gravitational waves. Enough talk for now, let's take a look at what Quran says in this respect.
وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر كل في فلك يسبحون.
And it is He who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon. All heavenly bodies in an orbit are swimming.
وما جعل.
So, what do you think about the origin of life itself?
Life was created by random chance. Once in a forever condition in our atmosphere converted inanimate object to life. Once life was created by itself, theory of evolution took over and here we are.
What is the proof? We have never been able to prove that in the lab. I heard some are saying that aliens might be the one who put us on Earth. Then who put the aliens wherever they live? Furthermore, theory of evolution of Darwin is full of inconsistencies. Let's take a quick look at that.
This theory holds that the species on Earth were not created by God, but came into being as a result of processes governed entirely by chance. The founder of this theory was an amateur naturalist named Charles Darwin. Darwin expounded this theory in his book, The Origin of Species, which was published in 1859. Darwin proposed that all species evolved successively from a common ancestor. But how did that first living thing come into being? Darwin did not address this question at all in his book. He was not even aware that this point was one of the biggest refutations of his theory. The primitive understanding of science in his day assumed that life had a very simple structure. according to a theory called spontaneous generation, which was popular since the medieval age. It was believed that living things could easily arise from non-living matter. It was commonly thought that frogs spontaneously arose from mud and bugs from food leftovers. And some curious experiments were designed to prove these theories. The theory argues that first, the unicellular living beings were formed, which then in hundreds of millions of years turned into marine invertebrates and fish, respectively. These fish later had supposedly emerged onto land and turned into reptiles. The story goes further and says that birds and mammals evolved from reptiles. For this claim to be true, there ought to have been numerous intermediary species, linking one living species to another. For instance, if reptiles truly had evolved into birds, then countless half-bird, half-reptile creatures ought to have lived at one time or another. And these intermediary creatures ought to have incomplete, half-developed organs. Darwin called these hypothetical creatures transitional forms. He knew that in order to support his theory, the remains of such intermediate forms had to be found in the fossil record, and the origin of species wrote, "If my theory be true, numberless intermediate varietals linking most closely all the species of the same group together must assuredly have existed. Consequently, evidence of their former existence could be found only amongst fossil remains." However, Darwin was aware that the fossil record did not contain any of these hypothetical intermediate forms. This is why he devoted a special chapter to this in his book and posed these troubled questions. Why, if species have descended from other species by fine gradations, do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms? But as by this theory, innumerable transitional forms must have existed, why do we not find them embedded in countless numbers in the crust of the earth? Darwin had supposed that such transitional forms would be discovered when the fossil record was inspected more carefully. Subsequently, evolutionists that followed him examined geological layers all around the world for 140 years and looked for these missing fossils. All these efforts ended with great despair. The transitional forms imagined by Darwin remained just that, figments of imagination. English paleontologist Derek Ager admits this fact, though he is an evolutionist. The point emerges that if we examine the fossil record in detail, whether at the level of orders or of species, we find over and over again, not gradual evolution, but the sudden explosion of one group at the expense of another. The oldest stratum of the Earth in which fossils of living creatures have been found is that of the Cambrian, which has an estimated age of 500 to 530 million years. In strata older than the Cambrian, no fossils of any creatures except a few unicellular organisms are to be seen. In the Cambrian period, however, many diverse species appear quite abruptly. More than 30 invertebrate species, such as jellyfish, starfish, trilobites, and snails emerge all of a sudden. These living beings have complex body systems, such as the circulatory system, and also very complex organs. For instance, the eye of the trilobite is made of hundreds of honeycomb-like cells, each having a double lens system. It is a wonder of design. This is the first eye that appeared on the Earth, and it definitely refutes the Darwinist claim that life evolved from the very primitive towards the complex. Moreover, the honeycomb eye structure of trilobites has survived since 530 million years without a single change. Modern insects such as bees and dragonflies have the same eye structure as did the trilobite. According to the theory of evolution, species must have evolved from pre-existing forms. However, there is no other complex life form known to have existed before the trilobites and other species of the Cambrian period. The Cambrian species came into existence all of a sudden, without any ancestors.
You know, being in space, I learned a lot about physiology and biology because I did ultrasound scans of my brain and my eyeball and my heart and these laser scans, and I just learned a lot about the science of biology and then the science of astronomy. And I don't have enough faith to be an atheist because life is so incredible that I have a garage at home in my house. And if I could wait a month, that garage would never clean itself. If I waited 1 billion years, the garage would not clean itself, you know? Like someone has to go out there and clean the garage. I could take a pile of silicon and set it in my driveway, and we have all these thunderstorms in Houston. Why? I almost missed the show today because we were late for weather flying in from Houston this morning. And if lightning hit that pile of silicon for 1 billion years, it would never make that glass. Like this glass would never be created from some random thing. So knowing about life, which is so amazing, and we replicate ourselves, and a lot of us work for 70, 80, 90 years. And we have love and hate and happiness, and all this stuff about life is just somebody had to make it.
Okay, so we don't know everything. Once we figure out the building blocks of matter, then will we be able to answer most of your questions?
You know, our scientific understanding of building blocks of matter and its interactions are beyond our current capacity of knowledge. We are hitting constant roadblocks and taking detours. There is something missing in science that is beyond just matter and energy, that will tie everything together. Without figuring out what that third thing is, we are totally lost. Here are some examples of some stuff that does not make sense at all.
But shrinking down billions of times into the realm of atoms and subatomic particles takes us into a strange, unexplored world.
When we descend into the microscopic world, we find that it's really weird, and indeed downright bizarre and unbelievable.
The stuff in this universe is far smaller than anything we could see with a microscope, but it holds the key to the cosmos.
We can only understand where we came from if we understand this crazy micro world.
The magic of the microscopic universe begins at about a 10/1000th of a meter, or the size of an atom. Matter behaves so differently at this level that scientists have developed an entirely new set of rules to describe what's going on. They call it quantum theory, and what it says is extraordinary.
This baseball represents a subatomic particle, like an electron or a photon of light, that routinely does all sorts of weird, strange things in the microscopic universe. The subatomic version of this baseball can be invisible, can go through solid objects with ease, can be in multiple places at the same time, and can seemingly go backwards in time and change the past. This means I could throw this microscopic baseball to first base and to home plate at the same time, or change the seemingly predetermined outcome of a play while it's still going on. Now this is the stuff of science fiction, but really we know it to be true, or at least it appears to be true in our quantum world. We get all sorts of weird things happening.
in quantum physics. What happens to an object over here can instantly affect an object over here, and over here could be millions of miles away.
This is how it works. When two subatomic particles interact, they can become entangled. That means their spin, position, or other properties become linked through a process unknown to modern science.
If you then make a measurement of one of the particles, then that instantaneously determines what the behavior of the other particle should be. And when the experiment is done, it's found that indeed the other particle's quantum state is exactly determined once you've made a measurement of the partner particle's quantum state.
That means if a scientist observes one entangled particle and forces it to spin clockwise, the other entangled particle will immediately start spinning in the opposite direction. That seems intriguing, but it's hardly earth-shattering until you consider that the two entangled particles can be separated by billions of light years. And still, the moment you observe one particle spin, you've dictated the other particle's spin.
That's weird, because it may suggest that information has traveled instantaneously, faster than the speed of light, from one particle to another. I don't understand it. I don't know that anyone does. Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it.
I see what you are saying. You think the third thing that ties everything together is God. But I chose not to call the third thing God.
I know. God is a very hard concept to accept and digest. That is why we gave it a new name, Mother Nature. And what God does is translated as karma. Anyway, my last question to you. What happens after death?
Nothing. We just turn to dust.
How do you know? What proof do you have?
None. But you don't have any proof either that there is life after death. As you believe in God, I chose to believe in universe and Mother Nature and turning to dust.
What if you are wrong?
Well, what about you? You could be wrong too.
I will then just turn to dust. No harm done. But, if you are wrong, you may be in heap of trouble.
Maybe or maybe not. We will find out when we die, wouldn't we?
Whether aliens exist or not, they are part of this universe. They live within the universe. So, they are bound by the same physical laws that dictates the universe. Quran states, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, meaning, praise to God, Lord of the worlds. Here, the worlds is plural. So, be certain that aliens, if they do exist, is not outside the realm of the creation of the higher power. The higher power, whom we may call Mother Nature or God.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
He is the cleaver of daybreak and has made the night for rest and the sun and moon for calculation. That is the determination of the exalted in might, the knowing. And it is He who placed for you the stars, that you may be guided by them through the darknesses of the land and sea. We have detailed the signs for a people who know. Indeed, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and earth in 6 days and then established Himself above the throne. He covers the night with the day, another night chasing it rapidly. And He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, subjected by His command. Unquestionably, His is the creation and the command. Blessed is Allah, Lord of the worlds. It is He who made the sun a shining light and the moon a derived light, and determined for it phases, that you may know the number of years and account of time. Allah has not created this except in truth. He details the signs for a people who know. It is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see. Then He established Himself above the throne and made subject the sun and the moon, each running its course for a specified term. He arranges each matter. He details the signs that you may, of the meeting with your Lord, be certain. And He subjected for you the sun and the moon, continuous in orbit, and subjected for you the night and the day. And we have placed within the heaven great stars, and have beautified it for the observers. And He has subjected for you the night and day, and the sun and moon, and the stars are subjected by His command. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reason, and landmarks, and by the stars they are also guided. And it is He who created the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. All heavenly bodies in an orbit are swimming. Do you not see that to Allah prostrates whoever is in the heavens and whoever is on the earth, and the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the trees, the moving creatures, and many of the people? But upon many the punishment has been justified. And he whom Allah humiliates, for him there is no bestower of honor. Indeed, Allah does whatever is on the earth and the ships which run through the sea by His command. And He restrains the sky from falling upon the earth, unless by His permission. Indeed, Allah to the people is kind and merciful. Have you not considered your Lord, how He extends the shadow, and if He willed, He could have made it stationary? Then we made the sun for it an indication. Blessed is he who has placed in the sky great stars, and placed therein a burning lamp and luminous moon. If you ask them, who created the heavens and earth, and subjected the sun and the moon? They would surely say, Allah. Then how are they deluded? Do you not see that Allah causes the night to enter the day, and causes the day to enter the night, and has subjected the sun and the moon, each running its course for a specified term, and that Allah, with whatever you do, is acquainted? And do they not look at what is before them and what is behind them of the heaven and earth? If we should will, we could cause the earth to swallow them, or could let fall upon them fragments from the sky. Indeed, in that is a sign for every servant turning back to Allah. He causes the night to enter the day, and He causes the day to enter the night, and has subjected the sun and the moon, each running its course for a specified term. That is Allah, your Lord. To Him belongs sovereignty. And those whom you invoke other than Him do not possess as much as the membrane of a date seed. Indeed, Allah holds the heavens and the earth, lest they cease. And if they should cease, no one could hold them in place after Him. Indeed, He is forbearing and forgiving. And the sun runs on course toward its stopping point. That is the determination of the exalted in might, the knowing. The moon, we have determined for it phases, until it returns appearing like the old date stalk. It is not allowable for the sun to reach the moon, nor does the night overtake the day, but each in an orbit is swimming. Lord of the heavens and the earth, and that between them, and Lord of the sunrises. Indeed, we have adorned the nearest heaven with an adornment of stars. And He cast a look at the stars. He created the heavens and earth in truth. He wraps the night over the day, and wraps the day over the night, and has subjected the sun and the moon, each running its course for a specified term. Unquestionably, He is the exalted in might, the perpetual forgiver. And He completed them as 7 heavens within 2 days, and inspired in each heaven its command. And we adorned the nearest heaven with lamps and as protection. That is the determination of the exalted in might, the knowing. And of his signs are the night and day and the sun and moon. Do not prostrate to the sun or to the moon, but prostrate to Allah who created them, if it should be Him that you worship. We did not create them except in truth, but most of them do not know. And Allah created the heavens and earth in truth, and so that every soul may be recompensed for what it has earned, and they will not be wronged. We did not create the heavens and earth and what is between them except in truth and for a specified term. But those who disbelieve, from that of which they are warned, are turning away. By the heaven containing pathways, and that it is He who is the Lord of Sirius. The hour has come near, and the moon has split in two. The sun and the moon move by precise calculation. He is Lord of the two sunrises and Lord of the two sunsets. He created the heavens and earth in truth, and formed you and perfected your forms, and to Him is the final destination. And we have certainly beautified the nearest heaven with lamps, and have made from them what is thrown at the devils, and have prepared for them the punishment of the blaze. So I swear by the Lord of all risings and settings that indeed we are able, and made the moon therein a reflected light, and made the sun a burning lamp. No, by the moon, and made therein a burning lamp. By those angels who extract with violence, and by those who glide as if swimming, and those who race each other in a race, when the sun is wrapped up in darkness, and when the stars fall dispersing. So I swear by the retreating stars, those that run their courses and disappear. So I swear by the twilight glow, and by the moon when it becomes full, by the sky containing great stars. It is the piercing star, by the sky which returns rain, by the sun and its brightness, by the moon when it follows it.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing? Then will they not believe? And the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander. Has there not come upon man a period of time when he was not a thing even mentioned?